are, 140 Fuller Ave, inside that big interview that I told you all about outside. We took a little panoramic view around the neighborhood. I just coming in the front door in the backyard, just for old time's sake. And Mom's saying, "What's this all about? What's this all about?" And she said, "What questions are you going to ask?" I said, "Mom, we're just going to ask you about, things like your siblings." And she says, "Well, I don't have a good memory. You remember their names, don't you?" And she says, "Yeah, I remember their names." So it's not going to get any tougher than that, I assure you. Okay. So here we go, and we're just going to get ready to this. You were born January 22nd, 1921, and it's about 3.5 years younger than Dad.
I think it's 2.5.
Oh, 2.5 years younger than Dad, okay. Do you remember, as far as your earliest memory goes in your childhood, what your first memory was? Or anything? What stands out as your first memory?
There's so many of them I wouldn't be able to tell
Oh,
which
pick
was
one
first.
out. Pick one out. Pick the most fun one out, the first memory.
Well, I guess the first one I remember is when, I think it was Glenn, used to push me in the swing. And he'd get me going real high, and I would jump out in his arms.
That was Glenn that was doing that.
That was my oldest brother.
Yeah, sure enough. We're going to get back to all your siblings here momentarily. As far as your growing up, what was your most fun childhood experience? Most fun stands out with the entire family. When you had a lot of things going on with a family that size.
I don't remember much about it, but we went to Canada as a whole family. We had a big touring kind of car. Those days you didn't have slide-up windows, you had
Crank.
snap-on, not cellophane, but some kind of vinyl
Plastic
windows.
Yeah.
And Daddy made us a big black box that fit on the running board, front fender. And that's where he packed our clothes, and we went to some of the Tyner relatives in Canada, where they had come over from Ireland, I believe.
Yeah.
And they settled up there, and then parts of the family dribbled down through the country. But we were a family, and I was a little girl traveling, and I remember hearing them say, little ladies didn't stand on their heads and have their dress fall out. They wore black bloomers
underneath the dress.
that didn't get dirty.
Yeah. Well, let me get this straight. Now, you guys all got together in a car. Were you ever driving horse and buggies back then in your age? Was that a lot?
Never driving one, no.
But that was common, transportation.
There were some people.
Still doing that. Was your car a crank car in the front to get the engine going?
Well, I'm sure I remember that happening, but I don't know if it was the only way it started.
Okay.
Daddy used to be a chauffeur for a wealthy man,
Mm-hmm.
and so he was a good driver, and I remember he used to take us for a ride way up. We lived in the base of the Adirondacks.
This is in a limousine? The big limousine?
But in our car.
Okay.
And we were not well-to-do, so it cost money to have gasoline. And
how much did gas cost?
No, I can't. 5 gallons for $1 or something like that.
Okay, 20 cents
But
a gallon?
back then, 20 cents was very
Yeah.
expensive. Daddy had a job and he worked hard, and it was, well, I can't remember exactly, but he would take us for a ride up on a hill, wherever he could take us that was up a hill. Then he would bring us back home, and he could just turn off the motor and we could come down the hill as far as we had gone. Didn't cost us anything.
To save gas. Well, that sounds like me. Everybody makes fun of me when I do that these days.
Do you do the same thing?
Oh, I'm close to it. I've joked with the family about how to be conservative with gas and everything like that. Now, you tell me, you all left, you've always lived in that Lowellville house, the big humongous house.
Well, I was born there.
You were born there.
I think Lowell was born there.
Mhm.
I'm not sure exactly where the rest of them were born.
But that was,
Well, Evelyn and Glenn.
that was considered a huge house at the time, right? I mean, as it
Oh,
is today.
it's a good, yes, it was a big house.
So-
Then we had Grandma living with us in the front 2 rooms.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I remember Grandma with us until she died.
Mhm. So you weren't really, wouldn't consider yourself poor growing up because you had that humongous house, one of the biggest houses in the city of Lowell, pretty much, wasn't it?
Well, not one of the largest, but it was a
Humongous.
large one.
And I remember the arch that went over the front sidewalk that lit up.
Yeah,
That was always there, right?
and I was close enough that I could almost see the school. So I would run, if I was gonna be late, I'd run real fast.
Yeah.
It didn't take me long to get there.
So just a few minutes walk to school then.
It was about, it might have been 3 blocks
Yeah.
at the most.
Getting back to this trip to Canada, you're telling me that you and all your siblings and your folks fit in this one car
Mhm.
and drove, how long did it take to get to Canada?
Well, of course, you realize we were in the northern part of New York State,
Yeah.
so we weren't all that great many miles from Canada.
So 1 day's drive,
I feel sure we did it in one day.
dirt roads?
I don't remember.
Probably were a lot of them back then. And, but the windows, interestingly, except for the front window probably, was the only one.
Well,
that was
the
glass.
windshield was glass.
Glass, but, okay. The other ones were roll-up canvas type of
No,
plastic
they
stuff.
dropped down and snapped on, as
Yeah.
I remember.
Do you remember the speed limits back then? I mean, was it
No,
interesting traveling back then? But it sure took a long time compared
To
to
go
what it does
anywhere,
now.
right,
Yeah. So do you
right.
stay overnight in hotels? Is that what you would do?
I don't ever remember staying in a motel with Mother and Dad, and I think we went not long enough that we had to be in a motel or anything overnight. Then you weren't available like they are today.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Was that big house always yellow, as I recall it to be?
That's all I remember it as being yellow. Montgomery Ward paint.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you grow most of your food?
Daddy did.
Vegetables, and I know you had chickens.
Excuse me, yes, we had chickens and we had pear tree, apple, plums. I think we had 2 apple trees. One was pound sweets or something like that, and the other was, I can't remember.
Pretty self-sufficient though.
Very, mother
Chickens,
canned
goats, the
and
whole works. And cows? Did you have cows out there? I know there was.
cows, no, she canned all vegetables.
Okay, yeah.
There was no such thing as freezing them.
Yeah. Did you have to share your bedroom?
Yes, my sister and I always shared the bedroom till she was married.
You didn't have one upstairs.
Mhm.
Okay.
We had a stovepipe that went through our bedroom, went through from the stove in the living room, up through the floor, about that big around.
I remember that, and that was your only heater?
That was the heater in our area.
Ooh.
There was a stove in Grandma's room, and there was a stove in the upstairs bedroom. And there were 4 bedrooms upstairs, and each of my brothers had their own bedroom.
Mhm. But you had to share
But
with your
Evelyn and
siblings.
I shared.
Did you sort of think that wasn't fair?
I loved having Evelyn.
did you?
Missed her like the dickens.
Yeah. Well, when you lost your grandmother, who took that bedroom in the front?
It's a good question. I think it was like a guest room.
Oh, okay. I remember when Dad came to visit, before you were married, he would stay upstairs, is that right?
No, he stayed in the front.
That was the guest room?
No, I guess I can't
I remember him telling me that.
Well, then maybe he did. I
upstairs.
don't remember that.
Yeah.
I guess I can't.
Interesting, interesting. The grandfather's clock that was there, do you remember your folks getting that, or was it always there since you remember?
I don't remember.
I remember it had the loudest tick-tock I've ever heard.
I don't remember where it came from. I remember it being it was over the radio, as I recall, and Daddy had a big rocking chair.
Mm-hmm.
It was especially comfortable and nice. He would rock us kids when we were little. That was in the dining room, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was when I remember. Matter of fact, I remember sitting on Grandpa's lap, him rocking, and I was on his knee in front of that clock, and we would talk. And I remember being able to pull up in his hand, and his skin would pull up in a big wad, and just sort of stand straighten up. Said, "How did I do that, Grandpa?" He'd just talk about his
loose skin. I don't remember that.
And he says it gets that way when you get older. Your skin will just sort of stay in one place, and it will just slowly just go back down to normal. But it was always something fun, as I recall talking with him. You said Grandpa was a chauffeur, starting out. He was. Didn't he also work in a movie theater?
Yes. I don't think it was at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
He ran the movie projector. We used to be able to go to the movies whenever Mother and Dad allowed us to.
Did he get you in free?
I don't remember paying, so.
Yeah. And movies back then were, what, nickel?
I think
25
maybe
cents?
a dime.
Yeah. Well, you know, you mentioned gas being 20 cents a gallon. I remember when in 1971 or 1970, that I could get gas in Bethany, Oklahoma for 17 cents a gallon.
Is that
In
right?
a gas war between the two gas stations that were across the street. 70, we go up 17 to 22 cents a gallon. Man, look what it is now, huh? Was Grandma always a housewife?
She was a teacher.
Oh, she was. What grades did she teach?
Well, it was a one-room schoolhouse, so I'm assuming she taught
Mm-hmm.
the people, all the kids in that room.
Were in general most mothers housewives, or didn't
Mostly.
they didn't go out and work a lot? Yeah. Do you remember your first boyfriend?
My first.
This goes way back. What grade was it?
Well, he went to school with me, and his brother married one of my friends at school.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Bill Green.
Bill Green.
We called him Willie.
Uh-huh. And this is what grade?
Oh, I don't remember. Probably I was about 14.
14. Do you remember your first kiss?
No, I don't remember that.
The first kiss is always the one to remember. I mean, that's.
Well, I'm sorry. At the stage of the game, I can't remember.
What year did you graduate?
1938.
1938. Was that the
I
year?
was 17.
17 years old in 1938. Was that the year that you were voted the prettiest girl in school?
That was what was written. It wasn't the prettiest. I can't remember what the best looking is what they put in.
Yeah, same thing. Prettiest, best looking.
In school.
Best-
That was
Senior
the
year?
year I graduated. It was in our
Yearbook?
yearbook.
Do you still have your yearbook?
Well, I did the last I knew. I don't know where it is right now.
Could have been lost in the flood.
Could have.
Yeah, I don't think I remember seeing your yearbook. I'd like to see that. Interesting. Talk about the 5 Ps. What's that about? Or 5 Ps.
5 Ps. Well, we used to have camp meeting every summer, and my closest friend Frances, who was my sister-in-law's sister, and I went to camp, and we were working as waitresses in the eating area for the meals while the programs were on. And the evangelist would speak, and then they'd have dinner and supper. And somebody had to serve, so we girls did. There were other girls that we knew, a couple of them from town, from the same church. Vivian Lucas and Vivian Bierman and Frances and I'm trying to think who the other girl was. Anyhow, we got together and we sang together played together, had a good time working in the serving area. And we decided to be a group, and we were choosing a name. So we all chose a name beginning with P. And then whoever the fifth one was, I can't remember right now, we had the 5 P's in a pot.
And what were the names?
Penny, Pepper, Polly, Patty, Peggy.
Okay,
And that was another Vivian.
yeah, interesting. You had a good time then, didn't you?
Yeah, we had a wonderful time.
Yeah. 3 brothers, 1 sister,
And
and you guys fought probably, right?
what?
Yeah. For one. Which one would you say you were closest to? We're talking Glenn, Evelyn, Lowell, you, and then Harold, right?
Well, Glenn was the oldest, and he was big brother that we all loved.
Was he protective?
I don't recall any specific reason he needed to be protective. He was good to us. Evelyn was next, and she was a lady, and she was a sweet voice. She was salutatorian of her class.
Ooh. Oh, geez. Okay.
And
Just found out we're almost out of time. We're gonna go to another tape here in a second.
okay. Well,
Okay, that's good. So, tell us about the other, that was Evelyn. I wanted to tell us something about each sibling.
Evelyn was everything what I thought admirable. Lowell was next, and he was gallant, handsome, not especially close, but he was wonderful to me. He bought me my first long gown, and he was a very special brother. And of course I was next. And then my youngest brother, and we called him Junebug. He was born June 6th. And
That's Harold.
he was our wonderful little brother. And he was always a wonderful brother.
Where did you meet Dad?
Pardon?
Where did you meet Dad?
At camp.
Summer church camp?
Yeah, where I worked and where the 5 P's were.
How long did you know him before you married him?
Well, let's see, I met him after I graduated. So I was 17 and I was 18 the next December, or January. And we were married September 1st, 1940.
And he went to war when?
43, I think it was. Bobby was born in 43.
Before he went to war? Good, okay. I didn't know that. Okay, and then he was gone how long?
Seems to me it was almost 2 years.
Okay.
And we had gotten settled in a home, and being that he was in the service, we were the first in the neighborhood got a telephone.
Is that right?
Because we were privileged, because we needed a phone.
First, so people would come over and use your phone, and you were on party line, right?
I'm sure, I don't remember that. The neighbors were nice neighbors.
What about your wedding? Was it a big one?
No, it was a very small but very nice. We were not well-to-do, and I didn't think it was wise to spend too much money on a dress that I would never wear again. I needed clothes that were nice, so I bought a suit dress. It was called Soldier Blue color, and it was, it had a little beaver collar. The jacket did. So I was married in the dress, and then when we went away, I put the jacket on. And
where'd you go on your honeymoon?
Well, I know we stayed in a motel. I don't remember exactly where we went, but we stayed in a motel, and I remember that we were being first night out and married and all. We threw rice all over the floor because we wanted it to be known that we
You got married, doggone it. That's good. That's good. Did you work before you got married?
Yes, I worked in Edwards, E.W. Edwards.
E.W. Edwards. How we doing on time, Dave? Dave, how we doing on time? Yeah. 35 minutes?
Left to go.
Oh, okay, good. I think we just had 10 minutes left to go, okay. Okay, that gives us time to go on. So you worked at where, I'm sorry?
E.W. Edwards in Syracuse.
Okay.
My brother also worked there, Lowell. He was in the first section. I can't remember for certain whether he was fur buyer or, I think he was, seemed so.
Mm-hmm.
He had a room in one house and I had a room in another where he knew I was. And that was all I had, was a room and a closet, and shared a bathroom, which I rented.
This is while Dad was gone?
No,
No,
this is
before
back
she got
while I
married.
was working.
Okay, good, okay.
When I first went to work.
Yeah.
I left Lowville and went to Syracuse.
Got it.
And my brother was already there, so it was sort of like having someone to take. Well, we both went to the same restaurant to eat, and we made arrangements for our meals, so we ate all our meals there. And had a nice relationship with the waitress
Mm-hmm.
and the owner of that restaurant.
What about when Dad was gone, where did you work?
When he was gone, well, by then I had Bobby,
Mm-hmm.
so I wasn't working.
You weren't one of these, what they call factory Jane workers?
No.
What they call those?
I don't remember the name for them.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
They were girls that were supposed to be really patriotic.
Yeah. So, propaganda does mean some good things. Do you remember your first apartment together with Dad?
Yep, it was on the second floor of a house in Eastwood, New York.
Eastwood. I never knew about Eastwood.
And it was one floor. The couple downstairs were an Italian couple, very nice, and they had a lovely young daughter. And I can remember Harold coming there, and if after a meal one time, it was leftovers, and we left them out where he could pick at them as he went by.
Mm-hmm.
Harold.
Mm-hmm. How did you tell Dad you were pregnant with Bob? Did you do it as a surprise, as a big dinner? What did you do? Just
That I can't remember.
you remember for any of us how you?
No.
And, you know, I Love Lucy. You saw how she made a big deal about it.
Right.
I just wonder if there was any surprise methods that you used or anything like that. So from that apartment, you went to your first house in Syracuse, right?
No, from that apartment I went to another apartment which was in a Jewish home, and the father and mother were great. But when their daughter got married, they wanted the apartment, and it was a third floor
Mhm.
apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So by then we had a living room, dining room, kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and a bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And had to move. Where did we go?
Somewhere Syracuse is going to come up here, I know. We were living next to the Yules.
Well then, I don't think we went, I forgot one apartment, where the first apartment that we were in was in Vera and Elgar Wright's home.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 1 bedroom, which was our living room and bedroom, and a tiny kitchenette. And I really mean tiny. I probably could have touched all the walls by stretching out.
Whoa.
And it had a top stove like cooker.
Mm-hmm.
And a small ice box, as I recall. And then down the hall was the bathroom. And I remember we had to share that bathroom. And it was a blind man who had an apartment down at the end of the hall who was sort of right across from the bathroom, so he could
Mm-hmm.
get to it.
Mm-hmm. as far as your next house, just,
Oh, well, let's see, we went to,
because we only just have a few moments, we don't want to get into all those
I
neighbors and
think-
relatives.
I think we must have been, moved maybe 4 times.
Okay,
Then we bought a house in Syracuse. And it was, 1 floor, modern, brand new little house.
Mhm.
And, I think it was $4,500, as I
Is that
recall,
right?
for the house. And, had a next door neighbor, a girl, Mudge Wolf, I can't remember what her real name was, and they had 2 sons. And on the other side was an older couple,
Mhm.
and it was nice.
Then Syracuse after that?
That was, then from there we went to, we bought a home in North Syracuse.
Okay.
I think there was maybe a change or two that I can't remember right
Uh-huh.
then. But from the one in Syracuse, that little house that we loved so much that was new, we went out at night in the wintertime. There was a big hill across the street. And we would get the kids settled in and sleeping. And we'd take our sleds, and a couple down the street, Marge and Mer Jones, who had 4 children, we'd run across the road, run up the hill and slide down, go back to the house and check to see the kids were all right.
Mhm.
Run across the road and slide down again.
What was Dad doing for a living during all this?
He was working as cost, something or other, can't remember his title, in a business,
In accounting.
accounting.
Mhm.
Well, he was first, not actually in accounting, but the beginning stage of that. I can't remember what they called it.
And then you went from North Syracuse to your next
To
home,
Corning,
to South Place.
right on Corning.
Yeah, I just looked at that home just yesterday. It's here. And as a matter of fact, we just saw Joyce Negri yesterday.
Yes,
And,
she was my neighbor across the street.
mhm. Then we came to 140 Fuller Ave.
Right.
Yeah.
That was 52 years ago. I think David was 1 year old when we came here.
Now, during all this time, during well, Dad was at war and then he came back, did you guys have a car?
I don't think I had one to travel in. My brother-in-law and sister used to take me places.
Mhm. So do you remember your first car you got with Dad?
The first new one we got was a Chevrolet, and I don't recall.
Blue Chevrolet.
uh
And we lived at South Place. when we
No,
had that,
I
didn't we?
lived in, we had a car then. I don't remember that car. That one was an older one. I think it might have been a Ford, that one. And I remember I went off in it one time, drove. I didn't have a license. Well, had a difficult time accepting that.
That you didn't have a license?
That I didn't have a license. He said, you're gonna ruin everything. You're going out without a license, driving
Oh,
around
yeah.
the city.
Yeah. So why didn't you get a license? You just were nervous?
I hadn't
Just not
tried
applied
for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't a big deal to you?
After that, I got a permit,
Yeah. And then the rest is
learned
history.
to drive.
Well, the first car, I was just talking with Dave earlier, first car that he and I remember together is a blue Chevrolet. And I remember that from South Place. And I remember getting a new car to replace that, being a brand new green Oldsmobile. Had the
Green and
awning-
yellow, green.
Yellow, really?
Cream.
Yeah, well, it had that big awning that went over the front windshield in it, and the little
I
awnings
don't
that went
remember
over
that.
the, do you remember that awning, Dave? I remember that part. And then from there, thanks to Dave's memory here, we're going through this, was the green Olds, then it went to the Studebaker, that blue
Yeah,
Studebaker.
blue Studebaker.
Then a 1960 Ford Fairlane.
I got that in Lowville.
Yeah, is
Picked
that
it
right?
up.
You picked that up in Loudville? Yeah, did you pick that out?
Probably not. I would probably not have made it all by myself.
Then it was a Chevy,
Impala, was it?
Chevy Impala, exactly right. And then we got that together with a, I can't read my writing without my glasses. Chevy, didn't you? Oh, with the Corvair.
Oh, yes.
You got those together.
My wonderful Corvair, that was my first
Yeah.
car.
Yeah, you got those together. And then from there you traded those in an Ambassador and the Grandma Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there you went to the '67 Cadillac Chalet, or Calais, Chalet, is that right?
Kelly.
Calais, yeah. And from there you went to the Fleetwood Brougham.
Mm-hmm.
That had the footrests in the back seat. How long was that thing? Did you say 23 feet?
23 and a half.
23 feet. Dave was saying he had to take a driver's test in that thing and had to do a K-turn. Whatever, I always call those 3-point turn, but I guess they call the case as well. Interesting stuff. Did you have to, in the old days, when I say old days, I'm talking about Syracuse and prior to that, old washer, probably didn't have a dryer, you just hung clothes out to dry.
That's right.
Was it a mechanical washer where you had to crank it by hand, or did you?
No. My dad put a motor on Mama's washer while I was still very young.
I remember being at Grandma's house and seeing the crank thing where it squeezed the water out.
That was a winding, what did they call that? It was about that wide, and there were 2 rubber rollers.
Yeah.
And you put the clothes between and rolled it,
And the water would come
and
out.
water came out.
And it got ready for them to be hung up.
They'd be hung
The
up.
clothes went. Remember her bread? She was
Yes.
always making, it always smelled good as it was.
Yes, you made a big batch of bread,
Yes.
probably once a week.
Yeah. Drive-in theaters. Remember going out as a family on those on occasion?
Only after we had a family. I
Yeah.
never heard of it when I was young.
Yeah. I remember just a few of them, the last of which was where we all went together. I don't think Bob was with us, but we went to see Summer Place.
Huh, no, I
That
don't.
was the last movie we saw together, and it was considered for its time to be a little bit risque. I was a little bit surprised. You can talk
But
about
compared to today, it
Oh,
was,
that's GP. It's G today. Are you kidding me? Then we went to a movie, you and Dave and Jack and I, to see in Elmira, Sound of Music. That was a good time back there. Penny's Pleasure.
you didn't say what happened at that.
Oh, where you got knocked in the car. Somebody crashed into
No, that lovely little angel of mine.
At Sound of
David.
Music. Sound of Music. What happened?
Oh, he was a pain in the patootie.
Because he didn't want to go see the movie.
He didn't want to go to the movie. He didn't want to do anything that would get along with anybody.
But did he like the movie finally?
Yeah, for at the end he was saying, Mom, it's not over yet, is it? We didn't finish yet, is it?
Oh, do you remember that day?
You were supposed to be picking on me.
Yeah. You know, I remember when we came out of that movie theater that there was a big old dent in your car, and somebody left a note on it that they banged into your car.
Is
back
that
then.
right? I don't remember that.
Yeah, do you remember that? Yeah.
You don't remember it either? No. No, I was so upset.
That was the least of your worries, that wasn't it? But
dear.
Penny's Pleasure, do you remember that?
Penny's Pleasure. I remember I was very honored when they put that on the boat, but it had really nothing to do actually to be mine. I just happened to be part of the family.
Just part of the family. Well, you know, I wasn't a part of that thing. Was
Oh,
that
weren't
you
you?
that picked it out, Rick?
No, Rick and David, Dad, wasn't it?
Rick and Dad.
Well, okay, they were together, what, Seneca, Todd, or saw the
I
paper?
don't remember. Did it come from Cuca? That
Mm.
I don't remember.
Interesting. But they came home and said, guess what, we got a boat, I guess. Is that how that came about? We're all trying to clue everybody
I don't
into
know
it.
exactly how it came about.
But-
Is it time?
Nice. A nice way to spin it in, though. You know, like, hey, we're going to name it after Mom. No
Oh,
stress.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I
Psychology.
remember going out in the driveway and standing there looking at Penny's Pleasure.
What would you say was your, as far as a family high point, your most memorable occasion that you remember us all did as a family?
I don't know, every graduation was for each one maturing.
Mm-hmm.
Every birthday was special. They were good days.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice having a big
Yeah.
family.
It was, and you know, one of the things I remember about our birthdays is, you know, we were proportionately appreciative for what we got. A red rubber ball for my birthday was big stuff.
Yeah.
That was the only present, and that was
What we
I was thrilled.
expected, yeah.
Yeah, and if you, if today it doesn't work that way, as you
It
know.
sure
but,
doesn't. Well, one of the things, of course, that I remember down through the years are the preparation for Christmas. There were times when we didn't have a lot of money, and we used, say, something that was somebody else's. A next son had grown up enough so we could give him that gift that year,
Mhm.
and another one to the other one. It never seemed to hurt anybody's feelings. We didn't expect a lot.
Mhm.
We had the stairwell to fill with the kids.
Mhm. Oh yes.
With Bobby on top, and Jimmy, and Jack, and David,
And
and Nicky.
we carried that tradition on in our household as well.
Did you?
Same thing coming
Yeah.
down the stairs. So
Yeah,
we sure did.
I loved it.
But getting back to the one moment that stands out, not moment, one time that we had as a family function. I mean, we had Adirondacks, we've had other, you know, several things that we've done as a family. The trips to Lowville,
All the
perhaps.
reunions were
The reunions,
wonderful.
yeah. That 50th sort of stands out. The 50th.
That's the one that stands out the most, of
Yeah.
course. It was the most complete,
Yep.
with everybody there, and friends and
Oh,
neighbors
my
and
goodness.
relatives.
Yeah.
And
Isn't that great?
beautifully put together, and what a surprise.
Oh, it was. You got a bunch of sons here. What was it, 5, is that right, or 6? Or 6. Can you give us sort of an idea? 5 brothers, 6 boys, that's how I got mixed up there. Give us a sort of a highlight of each one, starting with Bob on down. As you-
Bobby was so beautiful.
Yeah.
He was,
You're first.
I remember his mother
Yeah.
saying, Walt's mother looking at him and saying, "Oh, Walt, don't worship him. You mustn't worship him." Evidently, he had been enthralled with watching his young son.
Mhm.
I remember Walt's sister Mildred had a son, Nicky, who had outgrown some clothing. Among them was a lovely little blue coat and cap, which she gave to me, and I was so thrilled to have that for Bobby. That was Bobby. Jim was the skinny-necked, little, thin child who was good-natured, happy, seemingly, sweet.
Did I smile a lot when I was a baby?
Yeah, I think so, and gentle. A very good baby, but you cried a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And
Still do.
that was, I don't remember why. Maybe you had colic and I didn't know it, or what. I don't know. You were a little doll. Then there was Jack, and he was a blonde, different.
Blue-eyed too, wasn't he?
Pardon?
Isn't Jack blue?
Blonde and blue eyes. And I remember him when I put him getting him in the tub one time. And I felt of the water, and I said, "Is it too hot, Jack?" And he said, "Free hot, Mommy, free hot." Then David, no, Donnie. Donnie only was with us for a year.
Was it 1 year?
Year and 20 days.
Uh-huh.
And he was brown-eyed and sandy-colored hair. A very nice baby. Let's see. David was my big, healthy bruiser of a boy. He was a large child, and he didn't walk until he was about 16 or 17 months old. where the others generally walked about a year. And he was a heavy, and he was always into mischief.
I remember the baby powder. You know, if there was ever a can of baby powder within 6 feet of his arm's length, he'd always have it in his lap, upside down in a pile, right? It was right there.
Shaking it all over.
Oh, he had a problem with that baby powder every single time.
But he was also a very wonderful boy, and he was very smart. And he used to take things apart and then couldn't get them back together.
Yeah. How many lawnmowers did we lose that way?
And then Rick, our darling, little darling. He was just a neighborhood love. Everybody loved him. Mrs. Fish loved him. Mrs. Mullaney loved him. He was little. He had, as I recall, he had wavy hair when he was little. Brown eyes. Always a quite happy little boy, as I recall.
And then as we were growing up, what fun we had singing together in the car at Letchworth.
If we had had somebody that could have led us, I bet we could have been another.
Osmond family?
Yeah.
You think?
I wouldn't have been surprised.
If we
Yeah.
had we concentrated on that, possibly, because we all loved doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good thing about
We had somehow the ability, there was harmony.
Mm-hmm.
You were able to harmonize, and it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Seconds or minutes.
Minutes.
So was it? Oh God, okay, good. We're gonna be okay. And so then, as far as Letchworth goes, we probably did 15 of those trips at least.
Oh, every spring, wasn't it every spring and every fall? Both? The families, we ended up with 10 families. And the kids were more or less like cousins, did things together.
And we had a cottage that we rented on Juanita Lake, that we called Red Cottage. I don't know who it was from. But
On Juanita Lake?
I think it was. We had that old motorboat engine that David blew up in the backyard. Had to call the fire engines here, the whole works. Didn't burn down the house, but I remember we had maybe two summers that we had that we were out there, as I recall. Then we went to the house in the Adirondacks. I think that's probably my high point as a went out with the family, where we were there 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Was it 2 weeks? And we went to see the bears. Remember up in the mountains?
Oh, it was Fourth Lake.
Fourth Lake, yes. Is that not in Adirondacks?
That was
Mingo Lodge.
Mingo Lodge, right.
Mingo Lodge.
Yeah. Wasn't that a good time?
That was a wonderful time.
Wow, I think that was the highlight of all the things that we've ever done together as a family. With all of us.
We had an airplane ride there where, as I recall, we didn't all go together for fear something would happen.
We had two cars.
Mm-hmm.
And we took the Chevy and the Mazda.
Well, this was an airplane. We rode over Fourth Lake.
Oh, this is while we were there, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And as I recall, there was always a danger of somebody going down. Didn't want to all go down.
Wow. So
Seems though that was part of the
fascinating.
caretaking.
But we had a lot of good times, didn't we?
Wonderful.
Christmas morning was always Christmas morning like there ever was one. I mean,
Never, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Wonderful.
Always family. My goodness. What a wonderful childhood we all had.
What a wonderful. God was so good to us. That's the thing I've prayed, that we'll be a family that God
Yeah.
will be pleased with.
You know, we haven't had a Barbara Walters moment. But let me bring it down to Barbara Walters and what her last question would be. How would you say that you want yourself to be remembered?
A good friend. Happy. A Christian. Most of all. I love people. In general.
That you do. You know, that's something that I've picked up as well. Personality traits, watching you in the office in action with clients. That's some of the things I picked up.
Yeah. I did, I enjoyed the office ever so much.
It's been great. Dave, you have anything you want to add?
It's been fun, Mom.
It sure has. I wish I had
love
a
you.
better memory.
We love you.
Thank you, I love my family.
It's been fun. Just go ahead and phase out there, Dave, if you would. Get us all set. It's been fun, Mom. Thanks for a wonderful family.
Thank you, honey. Thank you all. You too.